If you're a veteran, then you need to listen to what this article has to say about you.
American veterans now receive absurdly generous benefits. Between 2000 and 2024, veteran disability compensation ballooned from $26 billion to $159 billion. Veterans may file claims for an unlimited number of disabilities and appeal against decisions as often as they wish. 1 in 4 disabled veterans now receives the once rare 100% rating. This ensures a generous $4,000 monthly payment for life with no conditions attached. Starting at the age of 25, a former soldier could earn well over $2 million. Online videos with tips about how to boost your disability rating are widespread. Research finds that disability compensation has reduced employment. Reducing payments to former soldiers will never be popular, but it would be wise. America's veteran obsession has gone too far.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. Dr. Sharma here, physician, board-certified psychiatrist, and Air Force veteran. Now, if you're like me, you are absolutely appalled by the article, and I will, of course, have the source linked below. But what I want to do is go piece by piece and pick this apart. Because you guys know me, I always go by the evidence, and that's exactly what I'll do in this episode. Let's start with what's right under the title. An enormous rise in disability payments may complicate debt reduction efforts. So let me ask a question. Why is it that when debt needs to be reduced, veterans are looked at first? Could there be other places we could look at? I wonder if we should be looking at how much politicians get paid compared to how much they actually work during the year. Maybe we should look at the enormous defense budget and how much money is actually lost and wasted every year. In fact, if you look at US government spending, veterans' benefits and services is at the bottom at only 5%. The article starts by talking about the Department of Veterans Affairs budget. Remember, this includes the VHA, so Veterans Health Administration as well. So this includes VA clinics, hospitals across the United States, veterans treatment. So this isn't just the VBA and how much is spent in veterans benefits yearly. It also says that annual spending per veteran has risen 6-fold over the past 2 decades. What happened during the last 2 decades since 2001? What happened in 2001 that sparked a global war on what again? Yeah, I wonder why spending on veterans' healthcare and benefits has skyrocketed right after we send them to fight unwinnable wars and expose them to all sorts of environmental toxins and trauma. Yeah, I just can't seem to connect the dots. I can't possibly see that the US spent $8 trillion on the global war on terror in the past 2 decades, keeping in mind that veterans' care accounts for only 7.9% of what has been spent on the global war on terror. So the human cost is really an afterthought when it comes to veterans. This is also relevant because, as the folks over at Task and Purpose pointed out so well, the Economist wanted us to go to war, but they didn't want to pay for it. So look at these articles: the case for war, why war would be justified, the case for war revisited. Oh, yeah, it's really nice to advocate for war, but then sit back while others pay the price. Next, look at what they compare. They say VA disability compensation payments between 2000 and 2024 ballooned from $26 billion to $159 billion. Again, it is very convenient to use the initial comparison numbers from 2000, before 9/11, and the war on terror. It's not a fair comparison, of course, right? It's like if I take a group of healthy people and I see that only 2% of them have asthma, and then I send them to live in a mold-infested house for 6 months, and then I measure the rates of asthma and the costs after the fact. It makes no sense. Then they compare the current system to when it was initially introduced during the First World War. Once again, they use the numbers from 1960 to 2000 initially to compare. We also have to keep in mind, just like Clay from the CivDiv said, the reason why the rate was so low is because veterans were not informed about the benefits that they deserve. Do you know the number of Vietnam veterans I've evaluated who have been struggling with things like PTSD for decades, but have never applied because they simply didn't know what was available and the benefits that they deserve? As a result, their mental health became worse, they couldn't get the care that they needed, and so on. Next, these folks decide to tackle the process of filing claims and appealing decisions. In other words, tell me you don't know anything about this process without telling me you don't know anything about this process. They say, veterans may file claims for an unlimited number of disabilities and appeal against decisions as often as they wish. Really? So this implies basically that veterans are going in and just putting in hundreds of claims with no rhyme or reason, and it's just random. If you file a claim for a disability, first of all, you have to have the evidence, medical records, nexus, diagnosis, and so on. It's actually quite an uphill battle, as all of us veterans know, to get anything approved. And appealing decisions? If you ask any veteran, the last thing they want to do is appeal a decision because they know it will take months or likely years to get a decision. In that same paragraph, they say that starting at the age of 25, a former soldier could earn well over $2 million over their lifetime. They make it sound like the veteran won the lottery or opened an investment account or something. You have to realize that that same veteran who might earn that much over their entire life, they also have to deal with their disabilities. This means medical problems, mental health problems, impacts on their lives, relationships, marriages, ability to work, and so much more. Then the article starts talking about presumptive conditions and how a single department-funded study found only limited evidence linking herbicide exposure in Vietnam to type 2 diabetes. Now, granted that this is outside of my specialty, what I did was, just for sniffs and giggles, a literature search on this topic, and lo and behold, we do have significant scientific evidence and multiple studies showing a connection and even mechanism of action by which this occurs. In the same paragraph, they discuss the PACT Act and talk about asthma and chronic rhinitis, and they honestly make it seem like it's made up because they put burn pits in quotes. Again, the research on this is very clear that yes, indeed, when you're constantly exposed to fumes from burning human feces, burning tires, batteries, equipment, trash, sandstorms, IED explosions, explosive residue, that yes, it does affect your respiratory system. This is not rocket science, and the evidence is there. Next up, they tackle stigma. By the way, don't you love how they use our own lingo against us? Oh, dark 100. They talk about stigma fading as if it's a bad thing, as if veterans actually seeking and obtaining the benefits that they deserve is a negative development somehow. They even portray online information videos as being bad. Of course, anything that would get the information out to the veterans who need that info. They go on to talk about how the program becomes an escalator to higher disability ratings and compensation, but no mention of evidence, what's required to get a service connection, the validity of what veterans are experiencing in terms of conditions related to service and impacts on their lives. Again, they portray all veterans as being malingerers, just gaming the system. In the next section, they talk about disability compensation and how it has reduced employment, and that it's unclear if the spending has actually benefited veterans. Interesting. Let me ask you this. Is a disability compensation program meant to increase employment? No. It actually is meant to compensate veterans for conditions related to service that have impacted their lives in different ways. Often, this does reduce their ability to work as much as they would without that disability, and it diminishes their earnings potential. And here's something else. I can actually say that the program spending does actually benefit veterans because I've heard it from them firsthand. Many times I evaluate veterans who are barely making ends meet and their mental health is actually worsening because they're just barely holding on to their jobs. But receiving this compensation means that they can actually take a step back, maybe go part-time and actually work on improving their mental health. I took it a step further and I actually looked at the research, and guess what? It turns out that increasing VA disability payments actually led to a significant reduction in hospitalizations for Vietnam veterans with diabetes. There's also improved economic stability that leads to veterans having stable housing, food, and prescription medications. Again, this economic stability is linked to better health outcomes. Remember, Even independent of veterans, studies have shown repeatedly that poverty significantly increases the risk of medical diseases and mental health conditions. We also see benefits from compensation when it comes to vocational rehab and grants. Again, the disability compensation program is not meant to increase employment. Mind blown. They end the article by saying that reducing payments to former soldiers will never be popular, but it would be wise. America's veteran obsession has gone too far. Right. The same veteran obsession that America has that has resulted in so many veterans still being homeless. The very same veteran obsession that sees 1.5 million veterans who remain uninsured by health insurance. The same veteran obsession that has led to a 33.9% rate of suicide among veterans, which again is not related to disability payments. Saying that is a false correlation. That's like saying ice cream sales result in increased crime rates when in fact it's related to the heat. Same thing here. It's not the disability payments that lead to suicide. It is the mental health conditions that lead to suicide. That very same veteran obsession that has led to 15.6% of post 9/11 veterans suffering from food insecurity. Yes, all of that clearly shows that Americans' veteran obsession has gone too far. The country is just doing entirely too much for veterans. You can see the sarcasm, right? Now look, this is just an article in The Economist. Nobody is going to follow what they say. Decreasing veterans' benefits would be highly unpopular. However, if something does happen in terms of reduced funding for the VHA or veterans' benefits or any other type of reduced funding that results in harm to veterans' well-being, then let me just remind you, the percentage of veterans in Congress has declined sharply in the last few decades. So, if something like that does happen, we might just need new people in these positions, people who truly understand our experiences and have lived our experiences. That's it for today's video. I hope this was helpful for you guys to take a deeper look at this article from The Economist and all the misconceptions and misinformation. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It really helps and it tells me that I'm doing something right. Also, please drop a comment below about your thoughts on this topic, and if you have requests on what I should cover in the future, I'd be happy to make a video on it. As always, thanks for watching. Dr. Sharma signing off. See you next time.